Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm JP Tong, and welcome to today's program, Detox Your Mind. How's everyone today? Um, Today's topic is going to be about our anger, and specifically anger towards others. Anger towards others, and how it is very important to understand what this anger is all about, and also to understand why we have anger towards others, and how can we have a different perspective of looking at anger. Okay, so I'll explain more, and then you will be able to relate to this issue of anger and how we can actually overcome it. And it's actually very important. Hi, Christina. Hi, Ben. Hi, Lily. I'm glad you can join, Christina. So anger. Now, there are two types of anger. Okay, so one is more apparent, which is the more aggressive one. And if something happens, then the person will just will just show its anger, start shouting, showing people a black face. The more aggressive, the more open type of anger. And there's another type of anger which is more passive, which is like a rage, like a passive rage. Okay? And these are type of people where they are very cool. They're very, very cool usually, and you don't think that there is much anger in them. But something happens and it triggers that rage in them and they go ballistic. I'm sure you know of people like that. And if you are like that, then you do have some anger in yourself. So it's a kind of a rage where it builds up. And that happens when you keep, you're keeping the cool, suppressing it, thinking that it's okay. But it's actually stored into your system. And over time, it's like a bomb where somebody just triggers it and then it just explodes. All right, so there are these two types of anger. So one is more open about it and one is very passive. But regardless, it's all from anger. Now, so how do we detox ourselves and not allow our anger to eat into us and to cloud the way we perceive people and to cloud the way that we perceive situations? Okay, how do we actually do that? Now, first of all, we have to understand the cause or the root cause of anger. Okay, so one of the root cause of anger is expectations. When we have expectations of others, and the expectations are not met due to whatever good reasons you may have, and when these expectations are not met, you will become angry. Okay, and when so expectations is one of the root cause. And if we have this habit of not taking responsibility and always blaming people, blaming situations, and it's not your fault. It's always another person's fault, or it's always someone else's fault. So when we have this habit of blaming something or someone, then be prepared, because a lot of times that will turn into anger, and I'll explain more later. Now, then another one is that, this person did something really wrong, or this organization did something really wrong, and you are angry because they create a lot of unnecessary suffering towards others for whatever reasons. Now, people who inflict suffering, even organizations are made of people. So let's go to the crux of it. People in general, when they create suffering onto others, making other people angry, upset, hurt, they themselves they themselves are hurting within. They themselves are not happy. So it manifests to behaviors like, you know, greed, being very deceptive, lying, and hurting others, breaking promises. So it can manifest into many, many, many ways. And that's because the person himself or herself are not very happy with themselves for whatever reasons. Okay, and I'm sure they are genuine reasons, but they do not know how to overcome these unhappiness. So the only way is, like as I've always said, because that is their reality, that is their comfort zone. So when they operate out of a comfort zone or out of a habit of always suffering mentally suffering, then the speech and things that they do will be a manifestation of their state of mind. So if the state of mind is unhappy and full of suffering, and no matter what they tell you, oh, it can be, oh, I'm just trying to be direct, I'm just trying to be honest with you, or, oh, I didn't think about it, or, why are you being so dramatic? Whatever good reasons they may have, because to them, they may not even realize, because to them, that is their reality. So it will actually manifest into hurting others. So when we understand why people hurt us so much because of this reason, then you got to realize that there is some sort of, well, you can say it's due to lack of wisdom, perhaps. And again, wisdom does not equate to your age. It does not. You can be 100 years old, but your level of maturity and wisdom may be 20, 30 years old. So we should never expect others to behave in a certain way. So again, so expectation is also, linked to this as well. Now, so when a person has so much suffering and so much unhappiness in them, and the actions and the speech hurt others as a result, we have to realize this, that because they themselves are hurting so much, then it's going to be very difficult for many people, but because we understand on a deeper level that they have not thought through things and they themselves are stuck, empathy in us will arise over time. Not immediately, but if you were to contemplate on it and apply it to yourself when others are angry with us due to our lack of mindfulness, perhaps we have done things in our past that lacked integrity, that was unintentionally hurtful. Um, so whatever it is, I'm sure all of us have hurt someone out there, and you would like that person to give you a chance to forgive you, and if you're sincere about it, you will actually be mindful to do something about it and change that habit. But there are some people who find it very difficult to change because they don't understand where that anger is coming from or where that unhappiness is coming from. Hence, programs like this, Detox Your Mind, and there's so many other programs online and books that are written about overcoming one's unhappiness. And it all comes back to having wrong perception, and hence wrong experience. Okay, and I've spoken about that during my earlier programs about how that works. So can you imagine? a doctor who actually sees someone and the person is sick. So instead of the doctor reacting negatively to that person who's sick, you will actually have empathy. And this is something that we need to contemplate on because all of us are has some sort of a mental dis-ease. Okay, it's not a disease, but it's a dis-ease. Diesease, dis-ease. So we're not mental freaks, but I'm just saying that there are these type of conditions of the mind. All right. So because of that, we and when we contemplate on it and we go, oh wow, you will come to a realization, no matter how difficult that person is and how hurtful that person can be, but because you have contemplated enough about human psychology and how people in general are so inflicted with so much emotions, be it positive or negative, most people do not know where it comes from, especially with today's topic, anger. Anger. Okay? I suffer from rage as well. I have a lot of rage. I had more rage before I joined Kechara. Now with Kechara, I'd still have some rage, but less. And it's a lifetime of contemplation, but you see, it's the consistency that will help. It's the consistency. So now that I understand where my rage comes from, then I'm very mindful that when you see, like for me, I get really irritated and very short-tempered when somebody tries to be superficial with me, and I can see them right through, and just being very very fake, and that used to irritate me a lot. I don't tell them off, but I just keep it within myself. So for me, I'm more of a passive rage, whereby it takes a lot to make me angry. But once I'm angry, it just explodes. So I'm the more passive type. And now I understand why. So every time when I'm irritated by people's lack of authenticity, lack of integrity, um, and so on and so forth, all my expectations basically, I am actually mindful about myself. And I actually catch myself, and instead of playing it in my mind and let it snowball, although I may not verbalize it, but it is kept in my system. So instead of letting it fester, I actually stop myself and take a look and go, oh, wait a minute. So I apply what I just explained to you to myself and go, okay, well, I actually need to practice more compassion and empathize, because obviously the person, again, out of ignorance, out of the habituation of selfishness, did something of this nature. So there's nothing not to forgive. There's no why. That's the level. That's the level. Not that my level is any higher, but I understand better, perhaps, how their mind works. So because of that, then there's no grudge. I don't hold on to it. I don't keep asking myself, why is this person like this or like that? I don't. And I learn to accept. Just like a doctor accepting a patient. I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but it's just that analogy that a person is mentally diseased, and hence there's nothing for me to react, except for being more patient, practice more kindness, more acceptance, and to use a lot of kindness to slowly let them realize that that there is actually another way, and actually to go deep into the psychology, to go deep into where they are hurting from. So I've learned to create a space whereby they don't feel threatened by my presence. So I have to initiate that. All right, so before I continue, there are many people who joined today. Hi, Kenny. Hi, Pastor Noel. Thank you. Jerry. Hi, Nancy. Agnes. Caroline. Sharon. So fun. And Faith. Hi. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, King Hoy, and the rest of you. Thank you. Yes, there is a question for me. Is it healthy to let the anger out than to keep and explode one day? Definitely it is, Faith. It is definitely better to let your anger out. But you see, the normal way or the more conventional way is, they say, scream, shout, just let all that emotion out. You can do that for now. You can do that for now, but I I believe a better way is to practice mindfulness training. Because when you practice mindfulness training and you focus on the breath, you will build control over your mind, because emotions arise from our mind. So when we learn to have a better control of our mind, and when something happens and it triggers that anger to come out, all right? So because it is so automatic, because that's the habit that we've developed over time, then and now that you have been doing mindfulness training, you have a much better grasp of controlling the mind, and as a result, you actually catch yourself from reacting. All right, I'm sure you can relate to that. Whereby there are a lot of times you want to say something, but you kind of bite your tongue, so you kind of because you know that it's going to make the situation worse, or you may want to react, but you kind of focus on something else because that's not the right time to react in that way. So there are times where we will have to practice control. Now that you have a better control of your mind, then you can actually step back. Okay? Step back and assess with this new knowledge that you've just heard about it today or learned today. So you step back. And then you actually analyze it, and you see what is all that anger about. I am sure you have good reasons. I am very, very sure. But like I say, it all comes from either expectations, having our habit of blaming others, whether it's people, or whether it's situations, or we forget that that well, when others hurt us or make us suffer, is because they do not know better. I'm not saying they're good. I'm just saying that they do not know better. And for them to hurt you intentionally, whether it's intentional or not, it all arises from them hurting. From them hurting. So when you look at people who like to say nasty things to others, who like to play politics in the office to get people, it's very intentional. And you look, understand, so where are they coming from? Why are they doing this at others people's expense? And although they know that it's going to hurt others, they still continue. So is it because of their greed? And what is greed all about? The greed comes from a psychology of what? Of feeling that they don't have enough. So they're very grabby. So they keep grabbing, because they just feel that it's not enough, and they feel very insecure if they don't win at the expense of others, because that is how they have been trained. And in the corporate world, they say, well, it's a jungle out there, so it's survival of the fittest. But there are other ways. There are ways where you can always get what you need and create a win-win situation. Wouldn't that be a lot better? You just need to learn how. That's all. Okay, so yeah, so it is not healthier. Well, it is healthier. So back to faith. Is it healthier to let the anger out than to keep and explode one day? Definitely, definitely. But instead of just using this method to let your anger out, what I'm trying to explain to you is to change your perspective of looking at anger and understanding where it's coming from, which is all from within. You see, like I always say, things can happen outside of us. Okay? They can happen outside of us. People can behave in funny ways. They're all external factors. Whatever is happening outside of our body, which are called external factors, they are beyond our control. Beyond our control. So we always have a choice how we want to react to it. All I'm saying is instead of reacting with anger, which does not serve us mentally and eventually health-wise, it'll create anxiety, heart disease, stroke. Well, doctors have been telling us that, right? So because of that, it actually affects you. So instead of allowing that chaos outside of us, outside of our body, instead of allowing the chaos to affect us, we learn to observe. Yes, you can have your opinions, but we learn to observe objectively without reacting in ways that will hurt us eventually and affect our health and affect our peace of mind. Peace as in PEACE. That's what we all want. We want some sort of peace in our mind and in our lives. And that's how we do it. But see, this takes practice. This definitely takes practice. All right, so I hope I have explained that clearly to you, Faith. Thank you very much for asking. We have another question. Hi, Iman. JP, how about sudden and brief feeling of irritation and displeasure? Are these emotions the same as anger or can lead to anger and hence should be managed accordingly? Yes, it always starts with irritation or things we don't like. We always say, oh, this person really irritates me. I just say that. All my older friends, they can vouch for that. I'm always, back then, I was always very irritated with many people. And it's usually with with how superficial they are. And that used to irritate me to the core, to the core. And then from there, it came, it it snowballed into an internal rage. Internal rage. Yes, so definitely. Yeah, so definitely work at it when it's just a mere irritation because it can snowball. All right, I hope that makes sense to you, Iman. Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, so now expectation. Oh, expectation on others. I think I believe I have spoken about that 2 sessions ago. So I'm not going to repeat that. Okay, so again, because of our expectations and our of others, and they are not met, then we will first feel irritated, and then eventually snowball towards anger. And anything that is similar in situation, it will trigger it, and then you get very angry. Very, 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 very angry. Okay? And that is a habit. That is a habit. So we can change that habit. All right? So, and the other one, so if you missed my episode on expectation of others, please watch that and you understand more. Now, blame. When we have a habit of blaming others, whereby whatever we do, and it's not up to our expectation of what we want to do for the day or for the project, It's never my fault. It's always someone else's fault. It's always the country, the environment. It's always others, but not me. Now, when we have this habit, definitely there will be some rage in you. Definitely. Because think about it, it's always other people's fault. So you feel so because you do not take responsibility of your actions. And when you don't take responsibility of your actions, it's always, you actually give that responsibility to others. When you do that, you lose control. You lose control of your life. The world out there is chaotic. Okay? It is chaotic. It is totally out of control. But you can control the choices that you make on a daily basis that you can control. So when we have this habit of not taking responsibility of our actions, we will have this habit of not doing what it takes to make things work for us. And because of that, we will become very, very frustrated because we'll say, oh, is it because of my astrology? I mean, I have friends who like that. Oh, this year's astrology is very bad for me. I didn't do my prayers, so it must be the astrology. The stars are against me this year, and so on and so forth. Haven't we all heard that before? So we blame it on our astrology, or we blame it on, what is it that people? Oh, feng shui, because the feng shui this year was really bad, and I forgot about it. I overlooked it, and yes, it's the feng shui. That's why nothing I do succeeds. It's all bad luck. So we blame the feng shui, or we blame the company. You see, I'm not progressing in my career because the company is so badly run. I'm not given opportunities to grow. I'm just stumped. So it's the company's fault. All right. So and so on and so forth. So it's always someone else's fault, but not us. Although there are times where, yes, the company is not run very well. All right. Now the latest buzz is the government. What is the government doing? That's the buzz. All right. That people are not happy with our government. But so what can we do about it? So the key here is, what can we do about it? All right. So again, if we are not happy with whatever situation that we're in, then we need to do something about it within our means. And we keep trying and we keep trying and we keep trying. That is coming from a habit of taking things in control. That means being responsible of our choices in life. When we do that, no matter what obstacles there may be, and they are genuine obstacles, all right, we will keep going. Because why? Because we have this habit of taking responsibility, that I will keep going at it until I succeed. And because when you do that, there is no anger. To you, it's just, okay, so this doesn't work, let's do this. It doesn't work, let's do this. And you keep going at it even though you failed 1,000 times, because your focus is not, oh, see, I failed. So because it's because of this reason, it's their fault, they were in my way, conditions were not right, and blah, 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 blah. And although you may not be angry outwardly, but inside you will build a certain rage. And it will just keep building, it will just keep snowballing. And that's how rage and anger develops. And that is why when when we grow older, you will see that we are less patient. We get irritated faster, much easier. And for some of us, there may be a certain level of anger that we never had when we were younger, but it has become so. It has become so. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So now it's all, so if you can just uh, contemplate on these three root causes. There are more, but these are the main ones. Expectation of coming from, so the root causes are expectation, having a habit of blaming others, and the third one is realizing that every one of us, including myself, has a form of a mental dis-ease. Not disease, but dis-ease. So, and that comes from, um, well, not having enough wisdom to actually look at ourselves and to practice more mindfulness so that we do not create suffering with people around us. So, and hence we're always stumped with all these various emotions that arise. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. And after this, at 9:45, I will have a group workshop where I will actually guide everyone on how to contemplate on the topic that I just spoke about. So if you are interested, please email to, there's an email address at the top of the caption. You can email there, and the administrator will give you our Google Meet link, and you can join me on this workshop. Okay, so before I say goodbye, there are some sponsors whom I'd like to thank, and it's because of your contribution. It allows us to sustain our costs of running our online program. So the first sponsor is Lily Tan. Thank you, Lily. Dedication, may we develop clarity of mind and wisdom and always be blessed by the three jewels. And the next sponsor is Anonymous, dedicated towards all beings' liberation from suffering and attainment of compassion, wisdom, and true happiness. Thank you very much. If you'd like to sponsor this program, there is a link at the end of this program. You just click on it and you can make your contribution. Thank you very much, and do share with others on your personal Facebook page of this program, because you, again, like I said, you never know who needs it out there. Especially now in Malaysia, we're having our third lockdown, and people are extremely stressed. So I guess it's the best time for us to introspect and understand how our mind works better, so that you actually find peace during this lockdown. All right, on that note, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.